Hello, friends. Fellow Coffin Nation members, this is Patrick Coffin with my books and movies recommendation. These are my picks, and I think you're going to love them. The first one, let's start with movies. Now, you know what? Let's stay consistent. We'll start with books and movies. So, the book I want to recommend is by servant of God Catherine Doherty. Catherine de Hewitt Doherty was born in the late previous century. Oh my gosh, 2 centuries ago, the late 1800s, and she saw it all in her life. She fled the Bolshevik Revolution, the takeover by the communists. She was a nurse. She was in World War I. She eventually was part of an audience that saw Adolf Hitler speak. She obviously, as a Catholic woman, despised the Third Reich and had a great love for the poor. And she found her way to America, and she founded an apostolate called the Blue Door in Harlem. And she spent some time in other American cities, but she was the first white woman to care for inner city blacks in Harlem. And a guy by the name of Tom Merton, that Thomas Merton, was a graduate student at Columbia University, and he walked by her apostolate, and the door was open, and he recalls in his book, The Seven-Story Mountain, that this woman's voice was prophetic. He'd never heard a human voice like this speak with such conviction. So he went in and listened to her and befriended her, and the chapter's called The Baroness in that book. But Catherine wrote a number of books. They're all fantastic. In fact, one of my earlier book recommendations was a collection of stories called Not Without Parables. You might remember that. This one that I want to recommend is called Pustinia. Pustinia, P-O-U-S-T-I-N-I-A. It's a Russian word that means desert, essentially. And it is an antidote to our culture of noise and hyperbole and frenzied pace of life. Pustinia by Catherine Doherty was a huge help for me, and as I had come back to the church, I went to Madonna House in the Christmas of 1990. It was a tremendous time of grace. So I recommend her book, Pustinia. She writes with a simple directness. She is a real woman. Her feminine, strong spirit comes through in every single paragraph, and I think you'll love it. So that's Pustinia by Catherine Doherty. Okay, movies. Let's talk Gran Torino, the 2008 movie directed by and starring Clint Eastwood about Walt Kowalski, a crotchety Vietnam vet, Korea as well, I believe. Korea? Yeah, Korea vet. And Walt is vexed at all times because the family next to him in suburban, kind of burned out suburban Detroit is Hmong, the Hmong people from Asia. And Gran Torino, now there's lots of potty words, so, there's F-bombs galore. But the spine of the story is how Walt comes to represent the true Christian manly ideal for the Hmong neighbor, the young boy. And he's sort of under his sister and his mother's thumb. They represent the kind of the feminine adulthood that doesn't have a salient masculine model. He's got a violent cousin who kind of wants to recruit him into his gang. So there's that hyper-masculine, violent model. And then there's the friend of Walt's who's a barber, and he shows him porn magazines and says that being a man is about swearing and so on. Again, not a true manly model for the young neighbor. And he discovers the true Christian model in Walt himself. I won't give a spoiler alert for the end, but Walt, in the end, ironically subverts all of the Dirty Harry franchises. This is a great bookend to that whole idea of a shootout at the end. There is shooting at the end, but it's not what you expect. It's a magnificent film. I especially recommend it to my brothers. I think women would like it too, with the caveat that it's kind of gnarly. It's definitely a rated R film, but I do recommend it. So, Pustinia by Catherine Doherty and Gran Torino, directed and starring Clint Eastwood. In the meantime, be a saint. What else is there?